Having backups does not guarantee recovery from a ransomware event. Security agencies, including CISA, warn that ransomware operators may search for connected backups and try to encrypt or delete them before making a demand. Other backups fail because they're incomplete, corrupted, or too slow to restore. I'm going to show you an architecture designed to preserve a usable recovery path even when the production environment has been compromised. We're fine, we have backups. That statement is only meaningful if the organization can restore those backups within an acceptable time. The problem is not that backups are useless. The problem is that many are managed as routine storage instead of as part of a protected recovery system. They may use credentials available from the production environment, remain continuously reachable, or go untested for years. An attacker who gains sufficient control may then be able to disrupt both production and recovery. So we're going to fix this in 5 steps. First, the 3 common ways backups fail. Then the ransomware-resilient version of the 3-2-1 rule. After that, I'll map practical designs for micro businesses, a small company, and a larger environment. Then we'll create a restore test ritual. Finally, we'll replay the attack and see what a protected recovery path changes. But first, you need to identify which failure could affect your current backups. Backups commonly fail in one of 3 ways. The first is the shared credentials failure. The backup administrator may also be a domain administrator, or the backup console may rely on credentials accessible from the production environment. If an attacker compromises an account with enough authority, they may not need to break the backup software. They can use legitimate permissions to disable jobs, shorten retention, or delete recovery points entirely. The practical question is whether compromising production also grants control over recovery. The second is the always connected failure. A NAS box, mapped drive, or backup repository may look separate to a person, but if the production systems can continuously write to it, malware or an attacker operating through those systems may be able to reach it too. A connected copy can still be useful, but it should not be the only recovery copy. Synchronization creates a related problem. A sync service is designed to reproduce changes, including unwanted changes. If files are encrypted or deleted, those changes may synchronize elsewhere. Version history and retention can help, depending on the service and configuration, but a synchronized folder should not automatically be treated as an independent backup. The third is the never tested failure. A job can report success while omitting an application dependency, protecting the wrong data, or producing a restore that takes longer than the business can tolerate. Corruption, unavailable encryption keys, and undocumented recovery steps can also appear only during a restore. You do not want to discover those gaps while payroll, orders, and operations are already stopped. These failures share one cause: treating creation of a backup as the finish line. The real goal is verified restoration after the primary environment has been compromised. That requires a stronger version of the familiar 3-2-1 rule. The classic 3-2-1 rule means keeping 3 copies of important data, including the production copy, on 2 different storage media or systems, with at least 1 copy offsite. That remains a useful foundation. A common ransomware resilient extension is 32110. Add 1 copy that is offline, air-gapped, or immutable, and verify backups with 0 unresolved recovery errors. Offsite and protected are not the same thing. A cloud synchronized folder may be geographically remote while still reproducing deletion or encryption. Some services provide versioning or retention that can help, but the recovery capability must be confirmed rather than assumed. Offline means the copy is not continuously reachable from the environment under attack. Immutable means stored recovery points cannot be changed or deleted until their configured retention period expires. The strength of that protection depends on the storage mode, retention settings, credential separation, and who can alter the configuration. Some governance modes allow specially authorized users to bypass retention. Stricter compliance modes may not. So do not test immutability by looking for a lock icon. Test whether compromised production credentials, backup credentials, or ordinary administrator permissions could remove every usable recovery point. Also protect the storage account, management plane, encryption keys, and retention configuration. The objective is 3 copies, 2 storage types, one off-site copy, one offline or properly immutable copy, and verification that restoration works. That protected copy becomes a security boundary between a destructive attack and a controlled recovery process. Here is the biggest shift. This is not only about counting copies. It's about maintaining at least one usable copy outside the authority an attacker is likely to obtain. Object lock or repository immutability can help, but this is not safely reduced to one checkbox. The lock must apply when data is written. The retention period must cover the likely detection and recovery window, and the credentials that manage storage must be protected separately. You should also test what each administrator can actually delete. Done correctly, compromise of the production environment alone is not enough to erase every recovery point. Now let's build that protection without buying more than the business needs. Start with a micro business, roughly 10 or fewer, mostly using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. Those platforms operate resilient infrastructure and include native recovery features, but the customer still has to decide whether recycle bins, version history, retention, and account recovery meet its own requirements. Native retention may be sufficient for some risks and insufficient for others. A dedicated SaaS backup service can provide separate recovery points, but confirm what it protects, how long it retains data, how administrators authenticate, and whether bulk restore has been tested. If the business instead exports critical data, choose the frequency from the recovery point objective, how much recent work the company can afford to lose. Store those exports encrypted and offline or under correctly configured immutability. A monthly export is only acceptable if losing up to a month of changes is acceptable. Now take a small company with servers. Use a backup platform that supports a hardened repository or compatible immutable object storage. Free or community editions may be suitable for limited workloads, but product limits, licensing, and immutability support change, so verify the current documentation before designing around a specific edition or provider. Give backup management separate credentials and protect interactive administrator access with phishing-resistant MFA where supported. Do not assume that joining every component to the production domain is required. Follow the backup vendor's hardening guidance, restrict management access, and prevent ordinary production administrators from automatically gaining deletion rights over every recovery copy. For a larger environment, the same principles remain: separated control, protected recovery points, documented dependencies, and tested restoration. But headcount alone does not determine the design. Data volume, number of systems, legal obligations, business processes, and acceptable downtime matter more. Ask 2 direct questions. How much data can the business afford to lose? That defines the recovery point objective. How long can each critical service remain unavailable? That defines the recovery time objective. If payroll must return within 2 days, a tested 9-day restore does not meet the requirement, even when every backup job is green. Different environments need different tools and budgets. The consistent design is a protected copy, limited administrative paths, recovery targets chosen by the business, and enough restore capacity to meet those targets. Then you have to prove the design works. A backup you have never restored is unverified. Establish a regular restore ritual. Quarterly is a practical baseline for many smaller organizations, while critical systems may require more frequent or automated testing. Restore one file, one folder, and a representative virtual machine, application, or mailbox. Then confirm that the restored data opens correctly. Validate permissions and dependencies, time the process, and record the result. That written result changes the conversation. A dashboard can show that a backup job completed. A timed restore shows whether the recovery process is approaching the business's recovery time objective or not. It may reveal that important SaaS data was excluded, that application dependencies were undocumented, or that required passwords and encryption keys are not available outside the compromised environment. A sample restore does not prove that every system will recover, so periodically test complete critical services in an isolated environment. Include identity, networking, application dependencies, clean replacement infrastructure, and the people authorized to declare systems safe. The drill should become predictable. Select a recovery point, restore it, validate it, record the time, document gaps, and assign fixes. Repeated testing turns the backup from a promise represented by a green checkmark into a recovery process the team has performed. That proof gives the final scenario a more defensible ending. Now, replay the attack. The attacker attempts to disrupt the backups, but compromised production credentials cannot delete the protected recovery points. Your team still has to contain the incident, investigate data theft, rebuild clean systems, and validate each restore. Immutable backups do not prevent ransomware or eliminate every reason an organization might face extortion. What they do is preserve recovery options. Instead of discovering that every copy is gone, the team can restore from a tested point using a process it has already rehearsed. Tonight, ask whether one compromised account could delete every usable copy. This week, create an offline or correctly immutable copy of the crown jewel data. This quarter, run and time a restore against your recovery target. Want your architecture reviewed? Go to viso.group, the first link below. Then watch the breakdown of the first 24 hours of a ransomware attack, with the incident response plan beside it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.